welcome to the Morning Drift. My name is Simba Elijah Charles Kiage. There's just a lot that we're going to look at this morning. Top on that is an ending conversation about what is now a talk that Raila Amolo Odinga is calling state capture. And a lot of political analysts are saying, well, it is unprecedented. The looming talks, private talks, should I say, between the president and the CJ, that is the Chief Justice, Martha Koome. Martha Koome has not said that she's ready for the talks, but the president has already said, I am available for those particular talks. So it is not known yet how these talks are going to go. The reason as to why we have these talks, we do know. A conversation that has now gone all the way to talking about the corruption in the judiciary. But we do know what angers the president more is that the judiciary is refusing to be bipartisan. That is, ruling against his implementation of development agenda, especially when it comes to his big campaign promises. We're going to talk about that this morning. I'll be introducing the guests who are joining us shortly. And just before we get to introduce the guest who's already in the studio, there's a topic also that is now grabbing headlines across the country. It is young girls who are losing lives. Again, another case yesterday around Ruiru, right here within Nairobi. A young girl again has lost her life, and investigations are ongoing. The name of the lady who was killed at Kasarani Airbnb has come out, a 20-year-old JKU art student, Miss Mweni. Again now, throwing a spotlight on part of the things that are essentially grabbing conversations as we start this year. And that's exactly where we're going to begin from this morning. We're going to look at the Daily Nation. The Daily Nation has the picture of that particular lady, Rita Waini, 20 years old, had never met a killer. She had on several occasions declined the man's requests for a meetup until on that fateful Sunday. Meanwhile, fresh details have emerged that the suspect demanded a 500,000 ransom from her family. Let's then open our conversation this morning, and you can join us online at Lookuptv across all your social media platforms. I am at Kiage Simba online. The hashtag is the Morning Drift. In the studio, we already do have Irene Yambura, who's a political enthusiast. How are you doing, Irene?
Thank you.
Happy to have you around. Also, joining us shortly is Edgar Ogutu, who's about to walk into the studio this morning, suffering from the heavy January traffic. Good. All right. Irene, let me table this particular conversation then before we get to look at other areas that we're supposed to throw light on this morning. The story now of young girls in the country meeting their untimely death. And if you look at these particular patterns, they're almost similar, Irene. I want us to begin from there. Yesterday, when we looked at the shocking revelations of the lady who was killed at Kasarani Airbnb, her body was totally dismembered, and now the details have come out. Her name is Rita Waini, 20 years of age, had never met a killer before. The very first time she had gone to meet the guy, she had on several occasions declined the man's requests for a meetup until on that fateful Sunday when she decided, let me go meet this particular man. Then she met her fate. Turns out this one demanded 500,000 shillings ransom, but if you look at the details of that police report, between this time when this man was demanding this money and that account for the parents, then it looks likely that he already committed a crime before demanding this amount. It's a conversation that is grabbing the country now. Yesterday again, we did hear another case of another lady who met also her untimely death at Wakairo in Ruiru again. We've opened this here, and all of a sudden now we have to talk about this. I mean, where do we attack this story from?
I think it's important that we look at our morals as a society to begin with. And, morals are very, very subjective, right? But I think it's also very, very important to see this, to separate the issues as they are and look at them as individuals and question our psychological capacity as a people. Where are we? What's going on? Because it is not normal for such cases like Waeni to lose her life. You know, it's not normal for what we're hearing day in, day out, and it's in very mysterious circumstances. These ladies are meeting the killers for the first time, most of them. So it's it's a sad place to be in as a country. It's a very sad place to be in as a society. And so I think we really need to dissect our morals. We really need to dissect our psychological well-being as a nation, as a people, because we're suffering. There's a problem.
Can I ask you about this particular one? I mean, when you look at the details of this Rita Waini case, before we even look at the case for Starlet Wahoo as well, which we opened the year with as well, the main suspect is in court, is arraigned as we speak. I mean, she's just 20 years old, and turns out she was a fourth-year student at JKU at university. I mean, what is this thing that we've already normalized as a society? And I'll put it to you like this. Speaking to a couple of ladies yesterday, I don't want to say their names because they requested that particular anonymity. They said there's a culture that even as we talk about this man, and we got to talk about this man, because that's essentially what it is. It's not the ladies who requested to get killed. It is these men who've killed these ladies. But then on the other side of that, there's a certain thing that we normalized as a culture. And they called it like it is. They said, if you talk to majority of ladies now, the Wababa culture, like women, young women who are dating older, and they say, do not use the word date, who are giving out sexual benefits for money and a lifestyle, is a thing that has been normalized within the society. To the point that nowadays, if you're essentially talking to ladies against it, you're essentially the enemy within that group, or you're not informed, because it's a culture now that we have normalized. Case in point, if you look at this particular story for Rita Waini, she's a 20-year-old, declined to meet this particular man severally. But then if you look at the venue where they essentially went to meet, you can actually see where it is. It is not in a public place. It is not in an area where this particular incident could not happen. It looks as if she knew where she was going. It means Kasarani at a particular place, which gives the man the strength. And is it okay now for us to start talking about this culture that we have normalized based on what we've seen at the beginning of this year?
I think it's a good place to start the conversation, because the first thing that we need to ask ourselves is, why are these women finding themselves in these situations, you know, and why are the perpetrators taking it all the way with them, you know, because it's a two-way traffic, right? Because you cannot, the thing here is, well, there's, as we call it, the Wababa's culture. Yes, there is. And I think the bottom line here is to ask ourselves, why are the girls turning into this? Why are older men looking at younger girls to begin with? You know, the ages of their daughters in the houses. You know, that's what I'm saying. We need to question our morals as a society, you know. And for women, for the young girls, it's always about keeping up with the Jones. It's always, it's a societal pressure, you know. I would want to think, wanting to be someone, wanting to look like you're making it in life. You know, it's the illusion that we grow up seeing on our TVs. It's the illusion that we grow up hearing from our peers. So I think that's why we've normalized the situation. Is it good? No, but it leaves us at a place where we need to, question.
You know, have that particular conversation, isn't it? And do you think that's a missing part, even in our education system? Because somebody pointed out yesterday that if you ask majority of girls nowadays, or young people in these universities, what are they getting taught? They're only getting taught about starting a career, getting a job, making their money. Starts there, ends there. How you make it, how you grow yourself within that particular space of money and career. It's not essentially a skill that is taught to majority of them.
True. And again, also the sex conversation, is it happening in our homes? You know, because a lot of times you find young girls find out these things as in campus, you know. So a lot of times, unfortunately, we find ourselves into it without knowing what you're getting yourself into, So I think it's also, like you're saying, it's the element of our education system. Maybe we should start talking about sex in schools. Maybe we should start having these conversations of dating, like openly having these conversations with other people, because it's a stage in life. We need to be very open about it. You'll go to school, you'll get to a point, people will require you to get married. Before you get married, you have to date. How do you meet these people? Where do you meet with these people? How do you behave when you're engaging in someone for the first time? What do you look at? What are the telltale signs? These are the conversations that we need to have in campuses. Yes, we do have communication skills in public universities. There's also HIV/AIDS, but I think more needs to be done
around this particular area. Teach these young girls,
even boys,
and men, isn't it?
Yeah.
About the process of getting there. But another thing that's coming up, and for the sake of this particular conversation, it's important to look at Rita Winey's age. She's just a 20-year-old who's in 4th year. And a lot of people questioned that particular age. She's just a 20-year-old. When you go by the Kenyan education system, you will say probably you graduate from Form 4 when you're 18, 19. And probably if you're going to clear in the next 4 years in your education, you will be around 21, 22. She's 20 and she finds herself as a 4th year student at JKU at university. Can you also blame this education system that essentially has very young people in a place where it's very open? Nobody teaches you about morals in university. It is you and yourself. And for a 20-year-old, it's when she certainly experienced life. You like to think. I saw a lot of comments online yesterday about how if you look at the sexual journey of majority of girls, they'll say, well, at 20 years old, that's when probably you're having your first boyfriend.
True.
Or your first sexual partner.
True.
Or your second, if the high school boyfriend's a thing to go by. Is it also time for us to start questioning this? Somebody said that this particular system gets people to move very fast in education. It's a good thing that we're talking about it now changing to the CBC curriculum, where it'll take some time before then you get to university. But a 20-year-old, among all these adults, and there's the internet, and there's the life that you gotta make in university, can we blame that as well in this particular case?
I don't think so. I really don't think so, because like you're saying, we have the internet, and the likes of Waeni, they've grown up with the internet, most of them. So I always say that Gen Zs are even more informed than the millennials. In terms of information, they have grown up with they've grown up with having their phones. They have had information on their phones all through. So I don't really think it's an issue. You really can't. It's not. I think where it all boils down to is even from our homes. Are we having the conversation? Are parents talking to their children about sex? Are parents talking to their children about dating? It's the conversations begins there. It's not an issue of they've gone to campus, they're just too young, we need to allow them. No. Age is just but a number. It's what you equip your child with when they're leaving your space. They need to know what they're getting themselves into. When I got into campus, I remember the first thing I was told when I was being dropped to school, I was told, welcome to the gates of hell. You can either come out of this place with a degree or come out, It was an open conversation with my parents. So I think it's a high time that parents open up. Let's have this conversation. Let us be open. Let us look at things as they are and stop pretending. Because I think this failure of looking at situations as they are and failing to have the conversations and setting our girls free without them knowing what they're getting themselves into, I think that's where the problem begins.
Let's look at this particular case then and how the government is reacting. Now, all of a sudden, then there are calls for Airbnbs in the country to be regulated. And that's the story that we did on the day before yesterday on the government saying that now we need proper registration of all the guests accessing the Airbnbs in the country. And I do not know how far this will go in solving this particular issue. Let's take a look at that particular story. Once we come back, then get to talk about it right here on Morning Drift.
Following the recent murder of young ladies who lost their lives in Airbnbs, INA's investigation continues to bring to book the ones responsible. Stakeholders in the tourism sector are now calling for the government, through the Ministry of Tourism, to put in control measures in Airbnb operation so as to ensure the safety of tourists and Airbnb clients across the country. Led by the Executive Director of the Association of Hotel Keepers in the country, Sami Kwae wants Airbnb standards and regulations set, something he says may put lives of many in danger if not handled with a lot of seriousness.
Maoni yetu tunahisi kwamba vitengo husika vinapaswa kuweza kufanya kazi kwa pamoja, regulations ziweze kuja kwa pamoja, nyumba zile ziweze kudhibitiwa vizuri, professionals waweze kupatiwa kipaumbele, kwa sababu wakati ukiweza kuangalia professions nyingi huwezi anisha shule yako na kuifanya bila Ministry of Education kujua. Ni vipi leo hii katika sekta muhimu kama ya utalii kwamba mtu ataweza kuwekeza, kutafuta wageni, kuwaleta wageni, kupeana huduma duni na serikali ikose kujua paka tuweze kupata jina mbaya.
While speaking in Mombasa County, Ikwae now says the Ministry of Tourism is the one to blame, arguing that if the Ministry of Tourism could have monitored the performance of the sector as it does in the hotel sector in the country, then some of these cases could have not happened.
Ama utalii ambao unaendelea kupanuka kwa sababu ya ukuzi wa teknolojia ni jambo ambalo litakuja kuletea Kenya sifa mbaya ya kiutalii. Tuna kitengo cha regulations, Tourism Regulatory Authority, ambacho kinatakikana kuweza kuhakikisha kwamba masuala yote husika katika sekta utalii yamekuwa regulated kwa njia nzuri. Tunajua kwamba kuna mikakati ambayo Tourism Fund wamekuwa wanafanya kutaka kuchukua ada kutoka katika kila mtu ikiwemo Airbnb, na ikiwa vitengo hivi vitaweza kufanya kazi kwa shirika, sababu hilo linakosekana, kila mtu anafanya mambo yake kivyake, ni kwamba unapata watu fulani ambao wanania kufanya mambo mabaya wanapata fursa ya kuweza kufanya mambo haya mabaya.
However, human rights defense activists have pressed for the strengthening of the investigation and strong legal actions to be taken to those found responsible in the murder of two ladies who were killed a few days ago.
Hatujui waliowaua ni nani, kwa sababu kwa mara pengine unapata kwamba hakuna documentation za kuonesha aliyekuwa katika chumba kile. Kwa hivyo sisi kama watetezi wa haki za kibinadamu ni kuomba ya kwamba kuwe na regulations ziweze kuwekwa ili kuweza kupunguza visa vya watu kuuliwa na watu kunyimwa haki zao katika Airbnb.
Mevin Getembe, Lookuptv, Nairobi.
All right. Even before I introduce the guest who's joining us shortly, let's then continue looking at this particular story by the Irene. It's not just this particular murder that we're talking about, if you look within a very short span. But the Standard this morning has really gone into highlighting how majority of these ladies then are finding themselves on the wrong side of these murderers. I'll start. They've looked at them. Phyllis Chepleting, aged 20, was a student at Karatina University. Her lifeless body was found at her boyfriend's house in January last year, age 20 years only. There's Ada Nyambura, aged 20 years old. Her body was found in a bush in April 30th last year. Police said the Masai Mara University student was raped and killed. Again, just 20 years of age. Then we do have the famous case of Scarlett Wahu, aged 26, was a socialite who was killed at an apartment in Saudi, Nairobi, on January 6th. There's also a case of June Cherop, who is 36 years of age, a Kenyatta University master student whose body was dumped at Jamhuri Estate in April 2023. So these particular cases, if you look at them, it is just an ongoing trend. But this particular reaction from the government, Arena, I would like you to help us put in proper perspective. You see, they moved into asking Airbnbs to be regulated in terms of, could you reveal the identities of these guys who come in and pick up business with you? Would that start to solve some of these cases we're talking about here? If you look at it, is it a knee-jerk reaction?
I think it is. I think it is. I think it's the same. You could equate it to, not in a bad way, but when terrorism began, we now had to be frisked everywhere. Remember? And that has become our culture as a country. I think it's the same thing. Unfortunately, sometimes our government moves really, really slow. We fail to anticipate circumstances, and unfortunately, it always comes after we've lost lives. I think so.
this particular reaction, when you look at it, is this a government agencies comparing? Because it was very, very easy for us to nab the alleged main suspect in the killing of Scarlett Wahu. But up to now, if you look at this particular case of Waini, we haven't really known who the murder suspect is, despite police alleging that they have a couple of images of this murder suspect. Is that the government trying to say, you see, it was quite easy for us to nab Matara in this particular case, but when it comes to Waini's case, it's sort of becoming a bit difficult for them to narrow down on who the main suspect is?
I think with what's remind me her name?
Waini, yes.
No, Wahu.
Yes, Scarlett Wahu.
Yeah, Scarlett Wahu.
Yes.
I think it was what welcomed us to, unfortunately, this sad scenario that you're having to go through as a country.
Yes.
And again, I think the minute you get to do something for the first time, I think you become better at it as you go. I'm honestly proud that the government has not even released information on like it did on Scarlett, because for Scarlett Wahu it was very sad. It was very sad that how the whole thing was handled, how the whole thing was reported. You know, nobody sat down to think of the family. Nobody sat down to think of the dead, Scarlett. You know, there was no dignity in her death, really. You know, and sometimes I think it is important to protect the dead, even when they're dead. You know, and well, we're getting there. I think I really want to believe that you're getting there as a country. We're getting better at getting to the bottom of issues and knowing how to handle the circumstances as we go, just to protect, you know, the family and the bereaved. I think it's important. Yeah.
Pretty much. At this point, then, let me introduce Edgar Ogutu, who is an investigative human rights reporter and the founder of Shang News. How are you doing, Edgar?
I'm good.
Yeah, happy to have you around. Yes. I want to throw you into this particular conversation that we're having this morning.
Yes.
And it's a conversation that has gripped Kenya all of a sudden. Yes. But if you start to look at the details, like what the Standard has this morning, on exactly how you can track the deaths of lady students in this country, young ladies who are trying to make a life for themselves, you find that there's a particular trend that has not come to the fore. If you look from last year, Standard has really picked a couple of faces from these universities of ladies who've met their untimely death. And what is, I want to grab your attention, Mr. Guto, is that, well, some of these are just 20 years old, very young ladies, 26, 20 years old. There's a life that is just starting for them. The question that I'm asking this morning, and I want to throw you, we've gone through it with Irene, is, are we not having the right conversation? Because there are two sides to this particular story. You can look at the ladies themselves. You can also look at the men who are involved in this. What do we start from?
Yes. Thank you for having me.
Anytime.
So what I'll say is that these things have been there for so long, and as an investigative human rights journalist and a human rights defender,
yes.
Yeah, we have been highlighting these issues because this is extrajudicial killing, without sugarcoating. Yeah, there's extrajudicial killings
in this particular
context.
Yes,
because femicides, homicides, and suicides, and these conflicts have for so long existed, and this is just a tip of the explosion.
Yes.
I'm not saying that the country we are heading towards an escalation of these killings, but this just unearths what's happening. That's what has made it in our newsrooms. But a lot is happening there at the grassroots.
That has not really made it to the media houses.
Yeah, to the media houses.
Yes.
So first, I'd like to give my gratitude, very sorrowful, to the families, and secondly, just to bring the conversation to the national platform. Must socialite be killed so that we can know that our ladies, our daughters, our girls are dying every day in the ghettos through these things. These killings are there every day. Like even right now, as we are speaking, I'm documenting more than 7 cases of bodies that have not been buried.
These are
in this particular time.
Bodies of ladies, yeah.
Ladies, even from like I have like 3 cases I'm documenting for street families.
Yes.
These are teenage ladies in the streets.
Yes.
We have like 2 ladies in Korogosho, in Kibra, you see. And what's contributing, the conversation should be around like what's the contribution to these killings, and you know, how can we mitigate it, and what's the way forward, you see. Like the issue of I think like the way the government is handling the issue is reactionary. Yeah, this is not the time to bring laws like rushing, making roadside declarations and this. No, this is the time to first make sure that we handle this issue sensitively. I don't think even it's sensitively handled, because we have to, these issues have the psychological impact on the families, on our national agenda, yeah?
Yes.
And also on the communities, on how we handle this. It can trivialize a very negative dimension if not consciously handled. So me what I'll say is, first, people should stop blaming on the women. You see, anytime people say I'm a dame, wanaachilia, dido wanafuata, wanabebwa hivi, you see, that's like amplifying the cause of the oppressor.
But is it not okay for us to look at those 2 sides of the coin as well, Ogutu?
Yeah.
Even as we say, well, yes, that these rogue men outside here were committing these crimes. But then when you start to look at the details of this particular story, in fact, even when Airbnbs are involved in it, when you look at this particular story, and I'm sorry to keep on going back to Waini's story as a reference story. I mean, when the details emerge, and when we're told that over and over again she refused to meet this man behind this particular crime, and then when you finally learn where the meeting happened, does that not open up to a conversation of maybe these ladies, or we need to educate the female gender in this country on even the steps of meeting somebody that you want to date?
Let me take you back to the conversation.
Yes.
About what happened with Matara. Yeah.
Yes.
Matara happened to be someone I know. Yeah. We used to be together in the Rastafari Foundation of Kenya. Yeah. Until when his chauvinistic ego got overboard that we couldn't handle him. Like, he got, we used to wonder what's wrong with the brethren, what's wrong with the brother. Because all of a sudden he got radicalized against white women, radicalized against women. He used to, his perspective about humanity changed, and he became a radical chauvinist. So in this regard, let's look at it in a dialogical angle of how do we understand radical feminism, how do we understand radical chauvinism, you see. And until we have this conversation, because these also, there's an interest of competing, the competing gender aspects in this conversation. Yeah, I'm not justifying what happened, because it's wrong. But the conversation about the competing gender has to be addressed. I told you Matara used to be a friend until when he got obsessed with chauvinistic ego. That we couldn't have a conversation about women, and we could not have a conversation about race. Okay? He used to be our member at the Rastafari Society of Kenya until like 5-10 years ago. And the reason why he left is because of radical position as a chauvinist, you see. So this brings us to a conversation whereby we need to talk about issues of stereotyping of gender, okay? Like in your community, it's okay to beat a woman, and that goes. In in our community, men don't cry. You're always told kufaki mwanaume, and even men are dying. These issues are there, you see. And also, just to bring a conscious conversation on justice and love, because even within these families of, let's remove it from the AIN and BAB. Let's take it back to the communities. I told you this is only what I've made it to the news lines. But me, every day I'm down there, I'm doing grassroots stories, and I meet these cases. Chali amewawa na dem, dem amewawa chali. Now, that age bracket has a problem also. We have to address the issues of transitions. Like, when I get initiated as a boy, it doesn't mean I'm above the girl, I'm above the woman. You see?
Yes.
Matters of culturalization. What do we educate our chauvinists? Philosophy. What do we feed our boys when they are getting initiated? That's one. And then the other thing is also, and this I like really to take it to the government, because the government has really failed us.
Yes.
To a point that a foreigner can come here and do body part harvesting. And this thing has been going on. And this is just a culmination of so many other truths that we are not told. For example, we don't know what was happening in the body parts of those people that were in Shakahola. It's the same thing that we don't know, where did the head of this beautiful girl go? Who is this Nigerian? Where is the network? And these things zeroes up to our level of national intelligence. You see, if I was in the West, in Germany or some other country, the US or somewhere, the intelligence system is more trivialized than the oppressor's network. By the time a girl is slaughtered in Kenya, all these apartments have CCTV, all these apartments have security, they have a level of sensitivity.
Yes.
Yeah? Where was our intelligence when all these things were happening? We can't lose more than 6 girls in a span of 2 months, and then it's business as usual. We just making it in the newsroom. We don't hear even the president speak to it.
That was my next part. And Lookuptv Kudela, I'm going to come back to you on that. And Irene, I mean, if you listen to the discourse now on this particular conversation, I'll take you back, and we've seen it. Every time we have accidents in this country, there's a major accident in this country, it grabs the news. We normally see the president address it or the deputy president address it. You know, it becomes a government agenda. But if you listen to what's going on right now, it's cases that follow each other. And by the way, if you look at these particular cases from April last year to date, some of those that are made in the newsroom, just like Lookuptv is saying, these are 6. And saying there could be many. And as a human rights reporter, he's saying that I'm following so many cases currently that are on my desk that I'm trying to come up with a story and report around it. If this has not grabbed the headlines of the president and the deputy president, right, at this time when we have even the prime cabinet secretary who's supposed to also come in and augment that particular role, does it start to show where our priorities are? That this, as it is not an issue in this government.
Yes, it does in very many ways, because I mean, women are equal members of the society, more so especially young women. And so once you lose 1, 2, 3 and there is silence from the topmost, you know, it begs the question, where have you placed your young women? You know, where are they in your government? Because you cannot have a case of us losing young women day in, day out, and it's just being reported. And as Oguto is saying, it's something that keeps on going and has been going on for a minute. And there's nothing coming out from the government. There's no nobody's speaking to it, and you're treating it as business as usual. And what now we are talking about is how the judiciary needs to meet now with the executive. You know, the irony. Then who are you going to be governing when all the young girls are? You know, it's misplaced priorities in this country.
Yes.
And I think that is where the problem is beginning. We are failing to see, like Ogoto said, we are failing to see each other as human beings first. And you're seeing each other on the lines of gender. You're a woman,
yes.
I'm a man, I'm stronger than you are, you're weaker than I am. You're my, you know, how do we contextualize the state of our being, our society as it is? Where are we? You know, because again, it boils down to when a young woman suffers under the hands of a stranger.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, I scrap out the word stranger, of a foreigner.
Does it?
And the man is literally leaving the country and he's caught on his way out of the country. You know, it begs a lot of, you know, what are we doing as a community? Where are we at as a community with a lot of issues, mainly gender mainstreaming? And I think there is where the whole conversation begins.
Yes. I mean, I've got to talk to you about this as well. Upon the death of Scarlett Wahu, that's when majority of women, some of them who were in the business of and I do not know the right name to call them this morning because this is a morning show, but I'll try as much as possible to make it clear to you. Women have come out and they're talking about the business they are with these foreign men who come into this country. Man comes in and it's allowed. You come in with your passport. The government is happy. You're coming to spend your money here. It's revenue for the government. And then they go in, and these women describe some of the acts they've seen these men do in this country. Come and do this to these women. Promise them heavy returns. Some of them get this money. Some of them do not. Some of the accounts I've watched is just men who've come in, had their way, and went back to their country. And nothing essentially has been done to them. So this morning I want to ask, and maybe you might help us understand. Yesterday again, when I was doing my investigations before coming to do this particular show, there's one lady who asked me, when you go online on these social media platforms, you're on Facebook, you're on Twitter, you're on Instagram, you're in TikTok, and then you see women who look like they're dressed just to show us their beauty. They asked me that. I was like, see a girl with a lot of followers, and the only thing that is on her account is just how beautiful she looks. There's nothing she's selling. There's no agenda. She's just showing you how beautiful she is. She's showing you the places she's been to. She's showing you her food and her friends
But
and
it's
the
a
music
free
she likes.
world.
And just okay, that's exactly where I'm headed to. And that's it. So they told me, do you know that the easiest way for these men, or the way that these ladies are advertising themselves, is basically through that. And these are the same women, according to her account, Irene, that are okay then, all right? And I'm not saying that this is what Wayne did, that are okay to meet these men privately. They go to private parties. They go to private residents. They go to private clubs. And majority of them, and there's an account again, that when you get there, because the people that have invited you there essentially are also fighting for that privacy. They take away your power to protect yourself. So you're told, give us your phone, you can't take any pictures, you can't call anybody, we're gonna pick you and drop you. So even where you're going, you essentially aren't aware. So when they meet this untimely death, that's when we start to look back and say, maybe now we need to educate these ladies and ask, who is a socialite? I was asked that question yesterday. When you say, I am a socialite, what do you mean? Who are you, Irene? Yes, even this morning. This can be a proper platform then to actually talk about and educate any other lady who calls herself a socialite. Is it because you have so many followers online? Is it because you're beautiful? Is it because, what are you selling as a socialite?
I think, is it really a matter of selling? And, you know, that's how we've looked at our society.
Isn't it? It's got to be a reading. Because if today, for example,
listen,
I saw you online.
It's social media.
Social media,
right?
Socialite.
You have the right to record yourself and put yourself out there. You know, it's a free world. We're allowed to do what you want to do. You know, it's the same. I think such wordings they go hand in hand with what people say about how women dress, ukivaa hivyo ndo utarepiwa. No, you know, it's a connotation. Unajaribu kutuuzia, unajaribu kutuonyesha, you know. Let us get to a place where
Is that the
we
point?
live and let live.
Is that the point that we've normalized? Is that the point that we've normalized? Because Irene, if we are telling men respect women, let them make their choice, let them do what they can. At one point in a proper setup, then you also have to say you gotta be respected, isn't it?
Everybody needs to stick to their lane.
Which is totally fine. Somebody say this, and I'm addressing this because we have to know that majority of these victims are very young. They're just 20 years of age, and then that's when you're a young adult. You're trying to figure life. So getting taught is also part and parcel of your growth. You like to think at this particular point, Irene.
True.
So when we ask women, do you?
Be you.
The men have to respect that. Okay? So somebody asked me a question, and I'm going to come to you or go to so we can look at exactly the cases you're looking at this morning, is how do you know police officer? I was asked that question. Like if you walk outside there and then you're in trouble, how do you know police officer? I said, I got to look for that uniform. It would be very easy to identify a police officer. I would say, how do you know an us? I would say, it's uniform. It's easy to identify an us. I would say, if I asked you to identify a lawyer today, you look in a place. I said, very easy. I'll probably be looking for somebody in a suit and a briefcase. If indeed it was a day that they're working or going to court, we know how they're supposed to appear in court. Then somebody also asked me, if I put you somewhere, then I told you, please identify for me a prostitute today. It will be very easy for me to identify a prostitute.
Would it?
Yeah. Because we do know when you're selling yourself, you got to reveal yourself. You got to sell your body, and the only way that you can do that is shout about your features. Okay? So,
That's right. Okay.
so we, in that particular context, Irene, when we go online and we see this, all right? I was also told yesterday that it takes milliseconds for you to go today online on any Kenyan social media platform to see ladies who are a quarter clothed, an eighth clothed. So when we meet them online and when we see all this, on that particular conversation for respect and presenting yourself for respect.
Where do we stand as a people with nudity?
That's it.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted to ask.
Because
when we go online then, majority of that is what we see, which leads to this. I was told that you have to look at where we are as a country. That today, Kenyan social media, even on TikTok, when you wake up in the morning, probably at 3 a.m., there's a conversation for even regulating TikTok, by the way, at the National House, that's exactly what you see. And so if I'm going to meet these ladies who are doing this today, I can't meet them outside. I can't allow them to tell their friends that they're coming to meet me. It has to be in a private place.
Interesting.
Is that a conversation that we need to have as a country? That, look, please get majority of our ladies to do the right things online. Because social media is about selling. It is about selling. It's about selling. Right?
It is.
Social media is about selling. So as a socialite, if I don't see exactly what it is that you're selling, and we called Scarlett Wahoo by there, and you can just
but also social media is also about entertainment.
It is about entertainment, yes.
Yeah.
But then to what respect?
This is how I would argue it, and here's my take on this.
Yes.
I think as a people we have a problem with nudity. I think we're still not comfortable with nudity, and again, like I said before, our morals, even when they're very subjective, there's a way we want everybody to behave. You know, we want everybody to be boxed in a particular casing, and this is how you need to present yourself. Like you're saying, if I'm told to identify a police officer, I'm going to look for the uniform. But what if they're not in their uniform? If I'm supposed to be looking for a nurse, what if they're not in their place of work and they're not, you know? So I think it's human beings are multifaceted, you know, and sometimes people take to the social media for their own reasons. Others go there to entertain, others go there to have fun, others go there to sell, like you're saying. And so I beg to, you know, to differ with, I'm lost when people talk about when a girl takes to social media and shakes her body. I mean, we're Africans. These things came, you know. We've been dressing in a very particular manner. We are Africans. We need to remember that. And we need to stop boxing ourselves and taking things, misdirecting issues, and take things for just what they are. We need to live and let live.
Yes.
You get to the social media, you find Wamboi is there dancing, let her be. It's her platform, just like you have your platform, And again, it's what are you going to look for? Because you always find what you're going to look for. So, and you'll always see what you're looking for. It will always be right at the corner. What you're seeking is also seeking you. Yes. So I think we need to be open about things. We need to change our perspectives on so many things. Yeah.
Here's a question that I want to also ask you, Gutu, and as a close associate of Matara. If you look at the way Matara used to essentially get these ladies that would be his victims, and we're going to see whether majority of other stories are going to come out once it gets to court and the investigations are essentially complete. There's a particular side that came out that it will go online, it would essentially look at the ladies who appear that they're living the lifestyle. And that's how Scarlett essentially fell in his trap. Looked at her, looked at the lifestyle she was living and said, this is my client, right? Which is why I'm asking that if you look at her description, may her soul rest in peace, is that she was a socialite.
Okay.
And that's why I'm asking that when you look at the penetration of social media, the internet, again, in these particular cases, there is a crop of women now who realize the get rich quick scheme is to get online, be a socialite, sell off yourself. And they're the ones who meet this untimely death. And if indeed we are glorifying this life of social media, socialites, and then you find that why news a 20-year-old, there's a similar trend that she went to meet somebody in an Airbnb. Scarlett Wahu, there's a similar trend right there, went to meet somebody in an Airbnb. So what script was Winnie reading from? I'd like to think she was reading the script from Scarlett Wahu's script.
Okay. First, I'd like to say I'm not an associate of Matara. Matara used to be a member of the Rastafari. The Rastafari movement of Kenya, which he disassociated himself when he started calling himself rebellious monk. Rebellious monk. Immediately he became a rebellious monk.
Okay.
And so he became an unbeliever of Rastafari.
Yes.
That was important disclaimer. So secondly, as my colleague has said, socialites are content creators. Okay. These are content creators, and that's the only space they can. You see, for example, I have a friend, Huda. She does a lot of programs within her space. She's believed to be among the pioneers of this socialite industry. Right now, she's doing like some projects, let's say in Madare, through her foundation, Rich by Beauty, which is also an industry. Yeah. So from the perspective, let's not sexualize socialites, and let's not profile or stereotype that industry, so that we open up the conversation. Another thing I'd like also to say is that internet has a lot that is ongoing, and everything within the internet right now is about content production. Someone is earning from it from some dimensions. So what I'll say is we have to de-stereotype the world. Me, I'm a doting daddy. I have daughters, and I won't like to profile how they will dress, how they will look, how they will be, you say quarterly and quarter dressed.
There's quarter, three-quarter.
And three-quarter.
Eighth as well, yes.
And also beyond the question, beyond the queue, dress. What we should talk about is how do we give dignity to the beauty as our heritage, as black people, as Tashoto heritage. How do we appreciate our girls? How do we build or cultivate an environment that even next time if you see, these things are just made it in the socialite spaces. But do you know how many girls are raped every day, are killed every day, when they are going to look for essentials, like when they are going to look for a toilet in Kibra or in Madare or in Korogosho or somewhere?
Yes.
Yeah? There are so many because of such mentalities of stereotypes that believe when you're quarterly or half quarterly dressed, you are exposed to sexual harassment, or you are being you are doing seduction, which is very wrong. Yeah, I think also we have some policies that we should have a reflection and do massive public education about. If we really have to go to the conversation of the quarterly and half quarterly, we have the Public Order Act. We have the Sexual Harassment Act. We have so many policies that we have to do massive public education around it, and including, leave alone these trivialized roadside declarations that I'm now hearing from the politicians and the authorities. We already have the law. The law is already there. It's only about how do you implement it. These things that I'm hearing from the politicians that sasa kila Airbnb lazima ikuwe na CCTV, lazima ikuwe na ID. The law is there. You know, we don't need them to cause even more trauma to the families. First, they have to be very sensitive to the conversation. Another thing,
just I want you to hold your thought right there, because I want you to come back from this tiny breather that I want to take us right here on the morning. Once we come back, I'll give you that chance to complete your thought. There are also other issues I'm going to talk about. By the way, it's a good thing that we don't have Ogutu and Irene here, because Raila Amolo Odinga has officially told the country that what you're walking into is state capture. Why? Because indeed Ruto, he said, is available for talks between the CJ, Martha Koome, and they said it's going to be a private meeting. There are issues they have to discuss about, and we do know what that is. The implementation of his agenda. Case in point, housing levy. The president is clear on it that if the courts do not rule in his favor, he said he is going to defy the courts on it. Number two as well, Chief, that order to stop its implementation was not thrown out by those judges. So if they do not align with the law according to the judges, then there's a chance that Chief might not come to existence. The president is not happy. Raila Amolo Odinga, Kalonzo Musyoka, and the rest of the opposition are saying, if that meeting happens, state capture. Once we come back right here on The Morning Drift, join us online at Lookuptv across all your social media platforms. The hashtag, The Morning Drift.
What about mambo fantastic if not scholastic? Chota kuchota na Hatia Supermarket imerudi. Ukifanya tu shopping ya shilingi 1,000, wewe unaingia kwa promotion ya chota kuchota na Hatia Supermarket. Watu wanaendelea kushinda ndani ya Hatia Supermarket. Mwana tata kitoko. Wewe na umeshinda
nini? Yote. Sasa, nalala.
Karibu ndani ya Hatia Supermarket uweze kuchota kwa wingi kabisa. Watu wanasema nini? Nakwambia kwamba chota kuchota. Unangoja nini?
Magari 7 za kushindaniwa, TV, free, microwave, shopping vouchers, school fees vouchers, instant prizes na zawadi zingine kemkem. Chota kuchota imethaminiwa na Hatia's Oven Fresh Bakery, Gigabyte, Mount Kenya Milk, Clover's Food Products, Velvet, Magic Drink, Pwani Oil, Arenco, Fruit Juice, Masterchef, Toilex, Coolsy, Mika, Wash Ultra, Philos, Prestol, Nivea, My Choice, Ushindi, Fresh Fry, Arimis Jelly, Cabernet Water, Dettol, Ketepa, Meta, Glucose, Coca-Cola, Rosy Tissue, Big Giant, Elbins, Unilever, Fresh, Unga wa Dola, Blue Band na Pasta Star. Shindano la chota kuchota linaanza tarehe 1 Disemba hadi tarehe 10 Februari mwaka 2024.
Hatia Supermarket, a world of choice.
IUAE Kaptara. Tunataka kusema asante sana Loto Foundation kwa mambo mazuri ambayo wameweza kutufanyia leo. Wakaaji wa hapa Kaptara, wakaaji wa hapa Salawa, wakaaji wa hapa Mujukuo, mpaka wakaaji wote ambao wanatoka hapa Baringo County.
Naambia Loto Foundation asante kwa kazi nzuri wanayofanya. Mungu awabariki.
Every time you play Lotto, 25% goes to the Lotto Foundation, which supports our fellow Kenyans through various causes. Thank you for your help. Together, we are changing lives.
All right, let's summarize this particular story then. For the killings of ladies that we've seen in this country, Ogutu was at a point where he was saying that, well, I do not like the response for the government. The law is there. Just the implementation is what we have to farm. Ogutu, I want you to clear your sentiment, and after that we move on to the next issue this morning.
For the sensitivity of the issue, I like to hear also the departments and the authorities that are concerned. Speaking about it, I like to hear, like we have Kenya National Commission on Human Rights that is being paid by the taxpayers, which is quite at this particular gesture. I'd like to hear the president, talking about it without, profiling our girls. I like to hear even the religious caucus speaking about it, not in the context of she was half naked, half mini. See, those are shenanigans that you are not ready to listen to. I like to hear them talking about the next generation. I like to hear them talking about the dignity of that girl that can prevent another girl from being a victim. And it's not only about girls being killed. The issues of also boy child is being silenced. I've told you there's now a pattern of, even right now, if I get into my social media page, I have like missing persons, boys and girls. I have like 10 flyers of missing persons. So this is also a question that we have to raise. We don't only have to talk when we found a body without neck. We have also to talk when msame disappear na tujue ameenda wapi. That's why it begins. Yes. And also my word of advice also to mademu, wacha niseme kimtaa, because hiyo ndio inawaumiza. Mademu wetu wa mtaa. Mimi nataka tukushio man. Kama kuna mahali unaingia machoche zako, please just make sure kuna morio wako, kuna beste yako, anajua unaenda wapi nini. Pia historia unaingia wanaitaga mboka kimtaa. Mboka is hustle. Historia unaingia mboka na kunaga morio wako, anajua unaingiaga wapi, unakuaga wapi. Si fiti. So kitu kingine pia ningependa kusema as a closing remark on the issue. If you go to countries like the Netherlands, I've been there for once or twice, you find that hizi biashara, whether prostitution, ama hizi socialites, ama these things they're doing, is the oldest profession. Okay? According to Musa Mensa and other philosophers that were there thousands of years ago. This is the oldest profession. So kitu kwanza, si kufanya shughuli kuwe marufuku. There is watu wetu fulani. In fact, a lot of successful people, even in this country, wamereziwa na mama changa, na wamereziwa na huyo sister tunaonaga pale kwa street, akitafuta unga, akitafuta house rent, akitafuta school fees. Naona. It's very sad. Let's say, for example, Scarlett was a breadwinner. It's very sad. Sasa mtoto wake amebaki bila breadwinner. It's very sad. Sawa. Maybe that was her way ya bring food on the table. So mimi kitu ningependa kusema, let's have laws with morals. si lazima tuweke kila kitu marufuku so that the country can move this is not a religious country. This is a national country. We should embrace some values. You see, so as much as we are pushing the leadership to speak, I don't expect them to speak at the point that watabring zile sheria za kukandamiza industry. Sasa tuanze kuona tena mademu wetu wameanza kimbizwa tao usiku wanashikwa. Tuanze kuona hizi manyumba wanaanza kusukumwa zi. Let the government make the environment conducive and safe.
Yes.
To do business.
And moral.
Yes.
For this kind of practice, for this kind of people. You see, because this is also an industry. See, it's not all of us that can fit into white collar job or blue collar tie.
Yes.
Some can fit into their miniskirt suits and they bring food on the table.
Does it?
Yeah.
So pretty much, isn't it? Please allow us to move from this particular conversation because there are other issues that we need to talk about this morning. Now, the other day, Raila Amolo Odinga opposed that particular proposal then from President Dr. William Ruto, PhD, to have a meeting with the current Chief Justice, Martha Koome. Now, President William Ruto then wants the opposition leader, Raila Odinga, to explain why he's opposed to the proposed meeting between him and Chief Justice Martha Koome aimed at addressing allegations of rampant corruption in the judiciary. The head of state, speaking while on a development tour of Molwema and Debes in Trans Nzoia County, is blaming azimio leader Raila Odinga and other opposition figures for sponsoring individuals and entities to frustrate his plans through the litigation process. On return with the details, let's take a look at that. Once we come back, table that conversation.
Calls by Chief Justice Martha Koome to have talks with President Ruto to address his concerns over the alleged corruption in the judicial arm of the government continue to stir heated exchange between the government and the opposition. Just a day after the opposition vehemently opposed such talks, President William Ruto has come out guns blazing and has told off the former Prime Minister, insisting talks should happen to clean corruption from the judiciary.
Mimi nimekubali kwa heshima, nitaketi chini na viongozi wa mahakama, nitaketi chini na viongozi wa bunge, tutatue hii matatizo, ndio maendeleo ya Kenya iende mbele. Tunaelewana? Sasa tena mimi nasikia mtu akitendawili amesema ati tusiongee. Sasa mimi nashangaa hii ndio. Si mimi niliongea na yeye juzi. Wakati alikuwa analalamika ati mambo ya sijui nini. Si niliongea na yeye. Mbona hataki mimi niongee na wengine? Kwani Kenya ni yake peke yake?
While on a development tour of Molem area in Endebess, Trans Nzoia County, President Ruto now blames Raila Odinga and other top opposition figures for being behind numerous court cases against the housing levy and the social health insurance fund.
Wameenda kutafuta viongozi wengine ndio wawe watetezi wao. So these people, those who are opposed to any conversation amongst Kenyan institutions so that we can sort out the challenges that face development in our country, are the ones that have been recruited by the cartels, by the crooks, by the saboteurs, so that they can continue to benefit to the disadvantage of the people of Kenya. And we want to tell them, shame on them.
Even in the face of this standoff, President Ruto remains defiant his projects will go on undeterred in his quest to transform the country.
Nyinyi mulipiga kura kwa manifesto. Hawa wabunge tumepitisha sheria kule bunge. Hawa watu wanatuuliza nini? Si wakubali tuendeshe hii maneno? Ati watu wawili watatu wanaenda kotini wanafanya ukarabati, ati kwa sababu wameiba pesa, wanaenda wanalipa wakili, wanaenda wanahongana kotini, ati hii program isimame. Ndio nimekasirika na hiyo watu, nimewambia hiyo mchezo muache. Hiyo mchezo wawache.
The proposed talks between the President and the Chief Justice are yet to take place, and there is no concrete indication on when the two will meet for talks. Henry Tendanyula, Lookuptv.
That's it. It's quite clear from him. He's telling Raila Amolo Odinga, I mean, it doesn't make sense. That's why you should oppose me meeting the CJ so we can talk about the corruption in the judiciary. But if you listen to him further, you will hear him say, what really angers me is not even about other cases within the judiciary. No, it's specifically on the cases of the development agenda within this country. And just like I said, case in point, the chief and the housing levy. By the way, also other cases on even entrenchment of the CDF kitty to members of parliament. The courts have been clear on it. In fact, even Marla Koome has been clear on it. She called it unconstitutional. But then, the president, even in that particular address yesterday, also said, I will not listen to them. I'll just move on. See that? So within his address, there's so many takeaways that we want to make sense for you this morning. Irene, I want to start with you this morning. Let's start with the first one. It's that he wants to meet the CJ, and for the very first time, for an arm of the government that checks the other, somebody is saying, we need to have a meeting. So I can tell you what you're doing wrong. The Constitution, in the way that it was drafted, when it was coming up with the three arms of government, essentially drew clear lines of what their roles and responsibilities are, and even envisioned how these three would not meet at any one point. That at any other point, the Constitution envisions a parliament that only listens to the people. That's what the Constitution envisioned. That once you vote a particular member of parliament, this guy would always be fighting for you, not the political party. Well, what Kenyans were treated to is a saga in parliament which had to wait for the Speaker of the National House to come in to declare who the majority was in parliament. Was declared. The numbers have it. And so from time to time, Kenyans need to keep on hearing this. Well, if it goes to the parliament, we're going to win because we have the numbers. Good. You leave that aside. And then you say, but you see, even if they pass it in parliament, we're going to go to the courts, Irene. But this man who's enjoying majority now realizes that they found a way. And all of a sudden, at the beginning of this year, this conversation of corruption in the judiciary wasn't there last year, Irene. No. We cleared the year properly. And if you looked at the moves of the president, the first order in office was to appoint the 7 judges that were never appointed by one president, Uhuru Kenyatta. Then you like to think, good, the president who listens. Now, all of a sudden, you might think they're reading from the same script with President Uhuru Kenyatta. President Uhuru Kenyatta called them wakora. All of a sudden, this guy also, is just a minute away from calling them wakora because he said, I'm not going to listen to them. What is going on with President Dr. William Ruto? Do you support the meeting between the CJ and the president? And by the way, it's private.
Well, I'll say this.
Yes.
I think as a people, we need to insist that the Constitution delivers on its promise.
That's it.
Right?
That's it.
If CJ Martha Koome and Dr. William Samoei Ruto meet as individuals, we should not have a problem with it. Are they ever going to be individuals? Well, they're individuals first.
If tomorrow we woke up in the morning and then we saw the CJ and the president probably having tea somewhere, are they ever going to be individuals, Irene?
Well, here's my point. If they meet as individuals, we have no problem whatsoever.
What is going to make them be individuals? What is this thing that's going to make them be individuals?
I don't know. The state. I don't know. I think they could also meet these issues of rights. I don't know. But I stick to my point of we need to insist that the Constitution delivers on its promise.
Yes.
Full stop. And the Constitution is very, very clear, like you said. And where we are at as a people, we've already lost confidence with the parliament, right? Mm-hmm. The people who are supposed to be representing us. Yes. And what you've been left with is the judiciary that has been mandated with the responsibility of interpreting the laws. It is the safe space where people can now go back and, articulate their grievances. Yes, so that is what I go back on to. If these two decide to meet as individuals, well and good. But as head of, no, let us, these are two independent bodies that need to be respected.
Yes.
Because it is a lack of respect that has gotten us to where we are at the moment. And we are a democratic nation. A democratic nation here means you're allowed to have your say, I'm allowed to have my say. And we need to have a neutral person to judge it.
Yes.
And so that needs, the sanctity of that needs to we need to respect it. It needs to remain as sacred as it is, regardless of our feelings towards the individuals manning the systems. But we just need to allow the system to operate as it is.
Irene, I'll be coming back to you because you like to think that the CJ will be concerned about the remarks of the president over and over again. At no one point, by the way, in the 2 addresses that she had this year about what the president has said, has she come out to say, Dr. President William Ruto, I am warning you from making particular remarks about the conduct of the judiciary. I'm warning you when you say you're not going to respect our quota. She has not. I will be picking that on that. I'll go to, here's a question, and we've seen this year. I mean, we woke up this year, and all of a sudden the LSK called for hundreds of thousands of man march within the capital to stop the president from attacking the judiciary. The president looks at us and says, no, I won't listen to you. Again, I said last year, if they stop it, I won't listen to them. This year again, in Trans you can hear him saying, if they stop it, I won't listen to them. You like to imagine that somewhere the president is advised. Is the president speaking like a man who has the AG with him and the Solicitor General with him, who are telling him, hey, bro, you can't go out and then say, I will not listen to them. Because that's the role of those 2 gentlemen. Make the presidency, for lack of a better word. Yes.
It's unfortunate that we have undefined democratic process. Yes. I'm saying undefined because we don't know if we are a participatory democracy or a representative democracy. Because of this kind of influences. The president has this at AG, Attorney General, and Solicitor General, and other instruments of power, including the intelligence. He gets briefing from the army, from national intelligence, from everywhere. And also, we don't have a court president. We have a president with a PhD, someone who has gone through
an education
system
to the topmost part of it.
Someone that you expect the highest level of IQ and understanding of political science or whatever profession that the president has. With someone who should have the basic level of the common man's understanding. Like, kama msawageti wanaelewa, umse anahizo PhD zote, ni aje ezielewa. That's one. 2, I really say this constitution, people have lost hope with the politicians, but people have not lost hope with the constitution of Kenya. In fact, I was part of the people who were participating in the making of the constitution. I'm a member of the social justice movement, member of the Katiba Institute under Yash Paul Guy and these other formations that are really playing a great role in public participation and educating our people about the constitution. And my advice to Martha Koome, and I like to put this in record, my mentor is the emeritus Chief Justice Willie Mutunga, retired.
Yes.
And part of the judicial transformation frame that Willie Mutunga brought should be put into place because it brought the work of the judiciary closer to the people. The reason why the president can afford to speak arrogantly to the judiciary is because the judiciary has lost the confidence of the people. The people has no hope with the judiciary. Why? Bado judiciary bado inafunga watu innocent, kuna a lot of people na uko jela, kuna a lot of hizi vitu ndogo ndogo. Wana concentrate sana hizi vitu ndogo. But when it comes to political issues, they give them acquaintances and they treat them like very special, VVP. What I'll say is to the Chief Justice, Mama Martha Koome, is as long as we have separation of power, as per the Constitution, that stipulates the work of the executive, judiciary, and legislature, and the devolved government, I like to tell Mama Martha Koome, instead of meeting with Ruto and you feel things are not going all right, resign. No, because Ruto's sentiments, according to me, is like he's silencing the judiciary. It's like he's not coming out. You see, like the issue we are discussing here about the girls and the Airbnb. So the same terminology in political conversing, like, oh mama ananiambia nini? You see? Yeah. So this intimidation of judiciary, you see, judiciary should stand on the basis of the rule of law. Okay? And the rule of law is not about Martha Koome meeting with Ruto to have a cup of tea or cup of coffee or whatever. It's about the rule of law. And what the law says is final. You see, instead of meeting Ruto, madam, fanya tu hivi. Because ukimit tu umzae on basis of his sentiments, umekatiwa ukaingia box, unetu mitu umzae, sasa public it'll lose legitimacy nawe kabisa.
Is that what's going to happen? That the moment she meets him, that's done and dusted?
Because one thing, Ruto is perceived to be rais wa koti. He was installed in power through
the courts,
the petition and all that.
Yes.
That happened. Okay.
Yes.
Secondly, we have an opposition that not only being disgruntled, but which is not satisfied with the court's ruling, though they obeyed the court's ruling, though they are not satisfied. Yeah. Thirdly, we have the rulings that Martha Koome is making, and the people that are taking these cases to court, they are based on public interest. So I'll tell Martha Koome, for the interest of public litigation, and according to these issues that the president is referring to, if you dare meet with the president and compromise public interest, I tell you, the people will come for you. Instead of meeting the president, whoever resign, now you say, make your sentiments and give your position, because history will not only remember you for 2024, history will remember you forever, and your history will follow you all the days of your life, including your children and your grandchildren and your generations to come. So I'd like to encourage you, continue standing with the people, even if it means losing your neck, but lose it on the people's platform. Don't lose it in State House.
Irene, now, we talk about this, and all of a sudden there's a conversation now that is rife again. This impending ruling on the housing levy is coming in tomorrow. The judges that were tasked with this have had time to really go through and given the government time to look into this housing levy issue. They're bound to make that ruling tomorrow, Irene. And also the ruling on chief is as well coming, because those orders that were supposed to stop its implementation, the judges essentially stayed them. They said, if it's bad, it gets out, right? So there's no leeway, because that's the law. Once you declare something unconstitutional according to the law, it's black and white. It is yes and no. That's the law. That's why they stayed those orders for both the housing levy and chief. Now, Irene, I want to ask you this question openly. Even our audience today is looking at it. What damage has the political class and the executive and President Dr. William Ruto, the likes of Kimani Ichung'wah, have done to the outcome of this particular case? Because somebody said yesterday. So if they say, yes, it's constitutional, majority of Kenyans are going to say they were intimidated.
True.
If they say no, majority of Kenyans are going to say that is the judiciary that wants to show the president that we are final when it comes to these particular issues. Have we created a mess already? Is that what it is now, Irene? Have we created a mess already?
Is it really?
Because are you gonna run away from that? Because majority of Kenyans know that there's a fight now between the judiciary and the executive. So if they say yes, majority of Kenyans are going to say, oh, you see what you did to the judiciary? They were afraid because you guys were essentially talking about how they're paid to rule against you. And if they say no, The opposite, the executive currently as it is will come in and say, we told you. See, they've said it's unconstitutional. We told you they were paid. So we're going to go after them as well. Have we already created a mess that we can't get ourselves out of? And if we've created ourselves a mess, is it proper to look at CJ, Martha Koeme's soft underbelly, that she has, in one way or another, not drawn one example to quieten this executive from making these particular comments about existing court cases? In fact, if I go back to my media law class, that if you are giving opinions about an active court case that is going to determine or sway that bench from the ruling they're going to make, the court will come for you, you're going to get arrested, and you'll pay for it. Here is the president saying, I won't listen. I won't listen. Let them rule in whatever way they want. I won't listen. Here's Kimani Ichung'wah saying, oh, we know how. Majority of you have been paid. And even these areas about implementation of the agenda, we know some people in the opposition have paid you to rule in their favor. But then, Irene, when you look back and say, oh, the CJ is going to make a public appearing and talk about this particular case, as a journalist, I say, wow, guys, today we're going to see fire. But nothing. Can we blame her for this situation, that she has in one way or another failed to stop it, knowing very well that she has the power to stop it, Irene?
I don't think we can really put the blame on Martha Koome, CJ as it is, because I think also her silence says something. You really, sometimes as a leader, you don't have to speak for you to be heard. Sometimes silence is a powerful tool.
We have not said it. Irene, twice this year. Twice this year, Irene. Twice this year. And probably that's the wrong question. Even when the president now, again, it has come after she spoke. She told them these roadside declarations about the judiciary, stop. This commenting about active cases in court, stop. The president doesn't listen.
But
yesterday follows that with, I won't listen.
But there has been a precedence of this. I mean, we really have a new constitution. Our constitution is still very, very young, right? It's less than 15 years.
So some people say they don't call anything that is 10 plus years young.
Like still a teenager.
Had 10 years to make sense of it.
It's still a teenager, and you know, in the teenage space is when you're becoming, right? And if you look at the trajectory of events that has been happening in our political spaces, especially when it comes to executive and judiciary, trying to find a space for themselves in most things, we've seen that it's been very chaotic since the former CJ overthrew the what is this called, the elections that passed. You had the sentiments of the previous president. I think it's anger that has really been boiling to a point that, and it's a tradition. But then again, we go back to, we have a young constitution. Most of our leaders, including our president, was used to operating in the other constitution. So I think sometimes I call it a hangover of the previous constitution. We are yet to get there. We are getting there, yes, but we are yet to get there, and slowly we are getting there. But I still insist on, shall we insist on the constitution to deliver on its promise?
Pretty much. But just before I cross over to Oguto, I'll be coming to you as well. Irene, the question that you're running away from is what I stick to it. I mean, Irene, if we made you president of this studio today, and I'm the presenter, then you say, Simba, tomorrow I don't want you to talk about this particular area. When I say, because you can't fire me, you have no powers to fire me, it's okay, I'll talk about it. And I say, because I don't like the way you operate, I come here and talk about that particular issue. You stand again and say, I am again warning you, don't talk about this particular issue. Well advised that you've spoken about it and I've seen it. I again come in and say, nah, I'll talk about it. I'll defy her. Who does she think she is? I know she's corrupt, so I'm going to talk about it. Knowing very well there's a particular law that I'm breaking that you are protecting. Irene, you have to, even if you are giving me the silence treatment, even if you want to communicate silently, at one particular point, I can only push you as much. That's what people say. They can only push you as much. At one point, you have to come out and say, no, sasa imetosha. Can't you see that's what's happening? The president knows, I'm going to push you.
You know, well, it's also in his constitutional right to poke holes and to poke wherever he feels like poking. But at the end of the day, where is the judiciary stand on everything? You know, and I think that is where I still choose to stand with Mother Kome.
Irene, why hasn't Mother Kome come in to say, you can't call me?
Because she knows. She's aware that he's aware. You know, it's a case of you know what he's doing. That's the thing.
Hold on, but can't you see there's already a war that is building up?
There is a war building up, right?
Here's the thing, Irene. But probably, Uguchi, you can also now come in. Yes. Raila Amolo Odinga said, in fact, if I get wind of that meeting happening, I'm going to call in a 1 million man march within the capital of Nairobi. Right? To stop it. All of us, the judiciary included, you would like to think that is a picture that they don't want to have in this particular city, knowing very well that they also protect those guys who are protesting. It's a constitutional right for any other person who wants to demonstrate. So they won't stop it. And we've seen it before, that guys have rushed to court to stop demonstrations within the city, and the courts have looked at it and say, well, they are well within their constitutional right. They can do whatever it is they want. So make sure those protests don't turn out to be violent. Knowing very well that Raila Amolo Odinga is making these threats. Seeing what LSK did the other day, there were already demonstrations about the comments of the president. I mean, Oguchu, you gotta come in and say, guys, listen, I'm the CJ. You see, whatever the president is saying, very unconstitutional, I'm not gonna do it. You see what the president is saying about not listening to court orders. If he defies a court order, this is what we're gonna do. I mean, at one point, you gotta do that.
You see, they say arrogance of the law is not a defense in any court.
Doesn't.
Yeah. So when you have a case in court that is on,
yes,
you should not comment about it.
Everybody knows, especially the presidency.
So the president. So these politicians.
Yes.
Politicians seems to operate in an arrogant space.
Yes.
So me what I'll say, my advice to Honorable Chief Justice, within the executive,
yes, there
are also instruments of law. Yeah, we have the Attorney General, who will be. You see, there are those institutions. We have like the Commission of Administrative Justice.
Doesn't.
Okay. We have the Ombudsman is under it. We have some other constitutional offices,
yes,
that can have a conversation around the president's speech. Yeah, it will not be appropriate. It will be a great compromise of the law if the Chief Justice gives into this kind of political intimidation. It will be like raping the rule of law.
Does it?
Which is very wrong. And again, on the part of the executive, I just want to remind Dr. Ruto, the president, that also you are writing your legacy, but be mindful. Also, history is being written. You see. The way you are treated, because the judiciary, you see, the Constitution says the sovereignty of this Constitution is bestowed upon the people of Kenya. That's chapter 1 of the Constitution. It talks about the sovereignty. And who keeps the Constitution on behalf of the Kenyans is the Supreme Court, not the State House. Yeah?
Yes.
So history is being written. The way you are treating the Constitution is being written. And also just to remind you, there are some clauses that came into place immediately. As much as you are saying our Constitution is a teenage Constitution, but the Constitution, there are some clauses that came into place immediately we promulgated the Constitution in August 27, 2010.
Yes.
Okay? One is Chapter 1, the sovereignty of the people. Yeah? And Chapter 2, Bill of Rights, Chapter 4. Chapter 6, that speaks about leadership, ethics, and integrity.
Yes.
Yeah? Chapter 7, ethics, Chapter 8.
Yes.
Chapter 9 speaks about separation of power and offices.
Yes.
And then Chapter 10 speaks about the role of the presidency and election. You see, these clauses came into place immediately promulgated the Constitution, okay? And also the last chapter on the Constitution that speaks about alternative dispute resolution mechanisms. Yeah. Instead of the CJ calling for a cup of tea, because if she goes to State House or wherever they'll meet, I want to tell her in the face, she'll be treated like a flower girl. Yeah? If she compromises to this situation. But if she stands according to the rule of law, she'll be treated like a hero by Kenyans. Because it's true the Kenyans are suffering. You're asking my colleague here about house levy. Yeah?
Yes.
Do you know, it's not only about the affordable housing project. Right now, according to the house levy bill, in Nairobi, starting 31st this year, January 2024, even the landlords wataanza kulipa levy kulingana na floors za ghorofa ngapi umejenga. Ground floor,
yes.
Second floor,
yes.
Third floor,
yes.
Fifth floor, hivyo.
And also based on the value of the property around.
Value of the property,
yes.
And according to how you have developed.
That's it.
So the house levy bill is not only about the affordable housing project. So what the CJ should do as direction to the court's position, the house levy bill should have people's participation. Irudi huko chini. History ya politicians kustand kwa podium and they say they talk, and then the people cheer. No, the issue of the housing levy bill should not be driven by politicians.
Yes.
Should be driven by civic engagement and public participation.
Yes.
Because if a landlord anaanza kulipa hao, that's now tutaanza kupandishwa. Already the cost of housing is very unbearable to so many people. So hebu niambia sasa wakianza kutaxiwa hiyo level na hii housing levy, already wale wase tunafanya job, we already being taxed about this. We already remitting about the house levy.
That's it. It's already remitting.
Yeah?
Yeah, and your landlord is going to come back and tell you got to pay more because I'm also paying more now.
Now, you're paying the landlord.
Yes.
And
also
from your salary, you're contributing. So this conversation is crucial and is critical. It's not a conversation about Ruto and Raila and the courts. It's a conversation about Kenyans. So we want the conversation to come to Kenyans. And we are not in a rush. Some of the policies, Ruto can wait until maybe later if he can use them as a re-election plan. But for now, there are so basic issues that also the court is considering. I wish the court can make a determination on the cost of living. Yeah? As Article 43 is very key and very important to the hearts of Kenyans. I think that's the focus of the conversation where it should be heading.
Yes, pretty much. Here's another perspective to it. And Irene, the president, and I told you, because when you listen to him, that a lot of things that you pick from. The National House has been given a responsibility by Kenyans. I mean, that's how the law says it. We do national elections. After every 5 years, elect your representatives. These guys will represent you in these national houses. So the agenda that you have, give it to them. They take it to the National House, and then that particular agenda is going to be pushed all the way to the executive for implementation. And if the executive doesn't implement, these same people have the right to come in and fire them. All right? I mean, the law is clear that you and I can't fire the president, but the Senate, who we elected, can get a motion from the National House to fire the president. They will do that. Once the National House feels that, hey, this is not doing it right. Now, the president is saying this. You elected these people. These people are the ones who said, we support the housing levy. We support SHIF. So I would like to think that you guys are the ones who give this mandate to these people. So why is it that the courts are saying no when the National House is already saying yes? Is that what the problem is? That the president is saying, maybe you as the courts, when it comes to development agenda, when the National House says, yes, we go that way, you guys, you have no reason putting your noses into it.
No.
Is that what it is?
No. The Constitution is very, very clear. These bodies are independent of each other, right?
Yes.
And it should remain that way. From the finance bill is when I think most Kenyans realize that they are on their own, and away from now what you're saying that Parliament is supposed to be representing the interest of the people, or representing the people per se.
Yes.
How do we vote as a nation? We always vote along party lines.
But the president is like, okay, you guys are the ones who voted.
Well,
isn't it okay to say that? But guys, I didn't tell you not to vote for the other people. You give me people in this National House.
But my colleague here said something about this government. It's a court government,
Yes.
And so, as it is, the country is very much so divided. So that cannot be, your line of thought cannot be used to...
That indeed, the president coming from this side, that even him is speaking by law. Listen, I didn't just sit and come up with this particular one. I came up with this proposal, took it to the National House, they voted on it.
The National House,
yes.
that is majority who?
That's it. But the president is saying, I can't control that. That's what
Really?
he's saying.
He's controlling.
He is controlling, because at the end of the day, I'll take Kenyans back to the finance bill and how our MPs voted.
But then the president is saying, well, that the only play that I have is to convince the National House to support my agenda, which I told you during my campaigns. Is actually asking them like that. Did I not come to you and told them I'm gonna build these houses? People said yes. Affordable healthcare, yes. Then I took you to the National House. Then I told those guys, you see, my people wanted you to implement this, so make sure that it goes through. So the president is like, so why are the courts again coming out saying, we don't want it?
Well, that could have happened, but I mean,
Yes.
it said it's only a fool who does not change their mind. And again, where's the contestation here? It's how it's being implemented. That is where the Kenyans are feeling the pain.
Is it ever proper, good, I'm coming to you, is it ever proper to lay it off from the president a bit, Irene, in the sense that you as a president, you're a politician. And for you to be a successful politician, you have to in some way have your way. I've spoken to an analyst who say that it's nonsense for us to sit in a program like this and say that the president doesn't need to have majority in the National House. Because they say then it will be very, very hard to rule and govern this country. That
is very
even
true.
from the get-go, he's going to find it very difficult for him to even
very
pass
true.
any agenda. Because now he's got no leeway in that National House where majority of these policies are passed. So if he says it's nonsense that the president doesn't need to have majority to rule, that sort of thinking, then why are we again then looking at it as if it's a bad thing to have majority?
I think I'll still go back to my initial point of we are having the old constitution hangover kind of thing.
Yes.
We are not a presidential system any longer. Things changed. Things have become the way they are. And so we need to grow and become accustomed to the reality of our situation, the reality of our constitution, and give it the opportunity to become, because I think it is one thing to want something and it's another to get it. And I think those are the things that, with all due respect, the president needs to respect. If Kenyans, we love the idea. There are those that love the idea but is it viable at this particular time? Why not listen to the people? Why not have a conversation with the people? Because at the end of the day, who are going to these courts? It's still the same people who are not comfortable with how things are being implemented.
Irene, I'm coming back to you on that. This is what the president is saying. Maybe you can help us decipher that. And I will pick it up with where Irene has ended it this morning. That it is the same people, the citizenry, who are going to these courts. But if I take you back to last year, go to Raila Amolo Odinga actually did sponsor a petition in the court. Okiya Omtatah is one who sponsored this petition on the housing levy and the finance bill. If you do remember, he wanted it completely scrapped off. But the court essentially took conservatory ruling on it, and it says that particular areas like the housing levy, the sheaf, and all these other ones were the ones that looked unconstitutional, as it were. That in one way or another, when the president looks at Okiya Omtatah, he doesn't see the Kenyan citizen, he sees the opposition. That in one way or another, when Raila Amolo Odinga goes to court to sponsor a petition, and if you do remember, when they essentially come up with the NATCO report, they said they're going to look for alternative ways to stop the implementation of the finance bill, like the courts. President Dr. William Ruto, PhD, doesn't see Raila Amolo Odinga, he sees the opposition. Is that it? That it is the opposition? It's not the people of Kenya in this particular case, as Ogutu?
Yeah, I'll take it from a democratic understanding, and that's why when I started talking, I said we have a problem with the kind of democracy we are practicing.
Yes.
We are supposed to be a people's participatory democracy, democratic kind of system. But the reason why the president has a lot of confidence with the parliament is because we are practicing a representative kind of democracy, not a people's-centered democracy. It's kind of, we have individuals who decide on behalf of the majority. And because these individuals have been compromised in some extent, because very few even understand what the philosophy, even those who support UDA or ODM, very few of them understand what the philosophy of the party means. What are the principles of the party and the values of the party. Apart from the nomination certificate and the election, wherever they have, whatever put them there, they even don't understand what are the tenets and what's their mandate according to the national agendas of their party.
That's it.
And I'll say we have two honorable houses. We have the Legislative House, and we have the House of Law. A House of Law is based on legitimacy. These are men and women, honorable, who have gone through the law school, they understand the law well, they have synchronized, they understand it well, they have gone to Kenya School of Government, they understand. The other honorable house, as much as many of them are lawyers, people have gone through political science and these other academia spaces, but they are there based on charisma. That's why they are populists. So some of them will make populist decisions. And that's why the court, the judiciary through its wisdom, have prioritized the constitution based on how they understand the law. And the first phase they understand the law, according to the issues that were there in the finance bill that Comrade Okiya Omtatah, the senator for Busia, had highlighted, were based on Article 43 of the Constitution. Basic human rights. Right now, if you look at not only the food issues, even if you look at the school, free primary education and secondary education issues, if you look at the health issues, if you look at the food prices, the issues that don't need political trivial. There are issues that need actions. And that's why I said there are some clauses that came into play. Immediately the constitution was promulgated. So the court is acting based on the public interest, which should not be intimidated. And let me tell you, the president, as much as the case was in the court and the determination was made and he became the president, it's not only the Senate or the parliament that can pass a vote of no motion with him.
Yes.
You see, also, according to Chapter 1 of the Constitution, that gives the supremacy and priority of the Constitution to Kenyans. Even the citizens, even a little child can file a petition to remove the president in the office. You see, if there's no way, people will go the liberation way. And as far as things are concerned,
yes,
these disagreements that they're having in public, by the way, zinachanua raia sana. Because now we are seeing those dirty linens or those cans that they used to lock in that, those worms they used to lock in that canister.
Yes.
That we never used to see, you see. So wacha wajifungue kabisa, wacha fungue roho kabisa, wacha wajianike kabisa, lakini wajue raia si waji.
Yes, yes,
But that's the beauty of our constitution. Sababu, that is how it has placed us. It has opened up these spaces. It has opened up the minds. You know, it has given the like he's saying, Article 1. But it's very articulate.
Yes.
So I think, yeah.
In this particular conversation, Irene, where can we give it to the president? Can you try and find reason to his anger? When you look at this particular issue for even the process of implementing agenda, know very well that the final process can actually end in court. And any other Kenyan today can go in and say, no, I don't want this. And the courts will listen. That's how the law envisions it. Where can you give it to the president? Is there a way when you try and make sense of his anger, just like we said, it's not Ruto, it's the presidency. You can actually see that he has an area where he wants to address. Can you find a reason as why he's angry, why he's angry today? What can you give it to him? Because we would not like to sit and say, well, the president is wrong, but the president says, I'm right. I know what I'm saying.
Well, as the president, and having a term, a stipulated amount of time that you're supposed to be delivering on whatever it is that you promised.
Yes.
Maybe we'll understand. But where I take it away from him is this is a journey, you know, and you need to be able to walk with your people. Other than being angry with your people, you know, because, I mean, if you go back to the Bible, that is how Moses never got to the promised land. He got angry with the people, and what did he do? I think, let him be very careful on how he conducts himself. Let him be very careful on how, because, I mean, the voice of the people is the voice of God.
Does it?
Yeah, and so I think it's proper to understand that it's a journey there. And so, it's proper to allow everyone in, because I mean it's the constitutional right of every Kenyan to have a say on whatever is happening.
Pretty much. Just before I'll be picking you just one comment from you, because Raila Amolo Odinga tends to summarize this conversation this morning. Now, Azimio leader Raila Odinga has sustained his remarks opposing the talks between the judiciary and the executive. He was speaking in Bungoma during the ODM registration drive. Odinga further slammed the Kenya Kwanza government for unfulfilled promises, as John Matava now reports. He called it state capture. Let's take a look at part of that story. Come pick closing sentiments from both Ogutu and Irene as we call it the Morning Drift this morning.
As the tiff between the executive and the judiciary continues, Azimio leader Raila Odinga has reiterated that the independence of the judiciary is vital and a dialogue between the two arms of the government would jeopardize the courts.
Kwa hivyo sasa tunasema Bwana Ruto lazima aheshimu mahakama. Tunaambia hakimu mkuu Bi Martha Koome, wacha hii mambo ya usharati.
While on an ODM membership recruitment drive to poster grounds in Bungoma County, Odinga blamed the Kenya Kwanza government for neglecting Kenyans and castigated the unfulfilled promises they made to Kenyans, adding that the bottom-up agenda has now turned to minting more money from already struggling Kenyans.
Si walikuwa nasema bottom up. Hii ni bottom up walikuwa na mini. Ya kwamba bei ya maisha itaenda juu. Na bado mambo bado.
At the same time, Odinga asked President William Ruto not to demand more taxes from Kenyans since they are already paying enough, adding that he should deal with the corruption in the revenue collection and procurement.
Now in 5 minutes then let's summarize this particular conversation. Raila Amolo Odinga has called it, I said, it's state capture.
It is.
Ogutu,
yes.
Do you agree that this is, like if that meeting happens, state capture, is that what it is?
I think, like my colleague here said, the hangovers. So Raila also has hangovers of the BBI. He's more on the dialogue at the BBI thing.
That's it.
But what I'll say, the judiciary is an institution that is supposed to arbitrate matters of justice and equality. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it needs no defense. Justice needs no defense. So even Martha Koome does not need Raila's defense or Ruto's impunity or defense.
Yes.
The law is clear and the law is open.
Yes.
And I think that's why we have that naked statue that is put there at the Supreme Court. It symbolizes something, yeah, because the law is clear, it's open, it's naked.
Doesn't.
So it needs no impunity, it needs no defense.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever Raila says, that is political opinion. But according to the wisdom of the judiciary,
yes.
Yeah, and another thing I'll say is that the judiciary also should focus on matters of other means of arbitrations. As an expert in matters of transitional justice,
yes.
May I like to say that we need to have a national forum that can address these discrepancies of judicial disagreements or agreements, or that can form part of the national policies that pertains to matters of public interest, either within the judiciary, legislator, or in the executive. A body that can offer an alternative beyond law, yes. An alternative beyond this political rhetoric or this political impunity. Kenyans are really obsessed with the type of politics that we have.
That's it. I mean, somebody told me to ask you this question.
Mm-hmm.
That now, Raila is getting vindicated.
Mm.
That when the courts made a ruling on the August 2023 elections, Raila Amolo Odinga came and said, I respect the courts, but I disagree with their rulings, but I'm going to respect their ruling and leave it there. But right now, all of a sudden, when it comes to these matters of the judiciary and the respect for the judiciary, Raila Amolo Odinga now looks like the right man to speak about it. All of a sudden, going by how President Dr. William Ruto is behaving right now.
Mm. I think we need to agree that first, that these two individuals are politicians. And as politicians, they'll all pull to their side. It's whatever, it's make it work, however you make it work. And it's something that we need to be very open and comfortable with as a people. But we should not get it confused. Let us allow the law to stand in its place of dignity and to allow the judiciary to do to do the needful, because at the end of the day the law is a double-edged sword. Inakata upande zote mbili. Wakati wako kukatwa ikifika, kubali kukatika. You know, ukiwachwa achika, it's the same thing. Tukubali yaishe.
Kubali kukatika na kubali kukatwa pia. You know? That's how it is. You can look at it in another way. Lookuptv, Irene, thank you very much for coming to the Morning Drip this morning. By the way, take them back online to the time that they joined us in the studio looking at proper issues within the country. Right now, Kenyans are talking about the cost of living. We do know that the National House is back in business as from the 19th of this January. Top on that table is the NATCO report. Hopefully, you've not forgotten about it, because indeed, it was talking about a lot of issues that touch on you as well, and also talking about how difficult it is for the government to implement the agenda. Housing levy sheaf that looks as if it's gonna go nowhere. We're waiting for the court's ruling on that and come back and talk about it. I'll be calling them back again so we can look on this much issues and more. At Lookuptv across all your social media platforms, the hashtag Morning Drift. My name is Simba Elijah Charles King. I guess see you tomorrow for another edition. Goodbye.
We value your feedback and welcome your complaints about our programming and operations.